Late autumn filled the air with whispers of cooling earth. In the village, a narrow street led to an herbalist's back room where jars and baskets lined the walls. Inside, Elka sifted through dried leaves and roots at her worn wooden table, sorting them by color and smell. Across from her sat Iver, a quiet old man known for his long silences and gentle eyes. He held out a small glass vial, its stopper sealed with beeswax. "I've brought you this," he said, setting it down on the table's worn surface. Elka nodded without looking up, continuing her work as if unwinding time itself. She lifted a bundle of chamomile flowers and laid them beside the vial. "What is it for?" "Whatever you need." Iver pushed his spectacles back onto his nose, but kept silent otherwise. Elka paused in her sorting, tilting her head slightly as she looked at him over her spectacles too. A moment passed before she took up a small wooden scale and carefully measured out leaves and bark into tiny paper envelopes. "Why do you bring me this every year?" Her voice was soft, yet it carried the weight of countless seasons. Iver shrugged, his movements slow and deliberate. "Because I can." Elka hummed softly, her hands moving rhythmically as she tied knots in string that held herbs together. "You must know why," she said, almost to herself. He smiled gently but remained silent, watching her tie the final knot with practiced precision before placing it carefully into a drawer beside her workbench. The door creaked open and closed again behind them. A chill breeze carried the scent of wet leaves through the room. Outside, shadows lengthened as dusk approached. Neither spoke until the light outside faded to a soft gray. "Will you teach me?" Elka asked finally, breaking the evening's quiet with words that held more than she could express in her usual calm manner. Iver looked at her then, his eyes reflecting the dimming daylight through the windowsill. "You already know." She met his gaze, and for a while, neither moved nor spoke as they shared the room's growing darkness. The only sound was of leaves settling against cold stone outside. As the last light slipped away, Elka turned back to her herbs and began folding paper packets with deliberate care. Iver's presence lingered, filling the gaps between movements with unspoken understanding. "Thank you," she whispered as she finished tying a final string around an envelope containing dried petals that caught every hint of day's end. Iver nodded once, softly placing his vial back into the pocket of his coat where he kept it year after year. He stood and moved toward the door, the creak of its opening cutting through the quiet like paper tearing in half. Outside, the forest pressed close around them, silent and full of stories older than either of them knew. In the doorway, Elka watched Iver's figure merge into the darkening trees as he disappeared along the winding path home. She closed her door gently behind him, a single candle flame flickering inside to greet the night that had settled over the herbalist's back room once more.
You're listening to the Empty Teahouse. The candle's glow cast long shadows on the wall, dancing quietly with each breath of wind that whispered through. Dawn lightened the sky as Maria knelt in her small vegetable garden near the edge of town, hands stained with soil and sweat.
Under the soft light of early dawn, Maria knelt in her small vegetable garden near the edge of town. Her hands were stained with earth and watered by sweat as she carefully tended to rows of carrots and beets, tomatoes and beans. Above her, a faint mist hung over the orchard like a whisper. She was startled when a knock sounded at the gate. Through it peeked the head of Sophia, an old neighbor who lived on the other side of the town with her cat, Polka Dot. Maria had never been much for visitors, preferring solitude, but she welcomed Sophia inside without hesitation. Sophia carried a basket filled with ripe peaches from her own orchard. "I picked too many," she explained quietly as she set them down beside Maria's tools. The old woman wore the same faded floral dress and flat sandals that Maria had seen on her for years, and her hair was still neatly tied in a bun. "Thank you," said Maria, though it wasn't until Sophia turned to leave that she realized why the basket felt so right here beside the garden bed. Sophia lingered at the gate. She held out her hand as if offering something small, but there was nothing in it. Maria took it anyway and squeezed gently. In that moment, they shared a silence rich with understanding and quiet gratitude for the gift of presence. "Polka dots waiting," Sophia said finally, her voice soft yet steady like the wind through leaves. She turned away and stepped back into the morning mist. Maria watched as she disappeared from sight behind the gate, her steps light on the dewy grass. The smell of peaches hung in the air around Maria, sweet and heavy with the taste of summer days. With a sigh that felt both relief and contentment, Maria returned to her work, pulling weeds and patting soil back into place. Hours later, she looked up from where she had been planting lettuce seeds to see Sophia leaning against the gate again, this time holding out her hand once more without any visible object inside it. This time, however, Maria did not need a reason beyond simply giving in return for what was given freely. She approached and placed her own hand in Sophia's warm palm. No words passed between them, only the feeling of two lives briefly touching. When Maria released her grip, Sophia nodded slightly before turning and walking slowly away along the path that wound through town toward home. Maria turned back to the garden but paused, looking out over the rows she had worked so diligently on all morning. The light was just right now, catching every leaf and petal with a soft glow. She could hear the distant hum of life stirring in the houses behind her, people beginning their day after night's sleep. In that moment, Maria felt the earth beneath her feet connect more deeply than ever before, rooted not only by what she had planted but by all that had been shared without needing to be spoken aloud. She bent down and picked up a stone from between two tomato plants, running her fingers over its rough surface where raindrops lingered. The gate creaked softly as it closed behind Sophia's departing figure, leaving Maria alone once more amidst the quiet of dawn. She tucked the pebble into one pocket and resumed tending to her garden with renewed attention and care.
Somewhere nearby, a bird began to sing, its melody weaving through the morning mist. The well's stone walls were slick with moisture and moss at dusk, reflecting the last light like old secrets.
At dusk, beneath the vast expanse of an empty sky, Liang, the young woodcutter returning home, met May, a herbalist counting dried roots, by the well at the edge of their village. The well's stone walls were slick with moisture and moss, reflecting the last light like old secrets. Liang approached the well with his baskets heavy on his shoulders. He nodded to May without a word but did not move past her. They stood there in silence, as if the world around them had paused to listen to the dripping water that echoed between the stone walls. May glanced up from her task, met Liang's eyes for a moment, and then looked away. She continued sorting her herbs by color, darker shades in one corner, lighter ones in another, her hands moving with the practiced ease of long years spent under similar moons. Liang set his baskets down gently beside him. He had been carrying them all day long through the dense forest where he gathered wood for the village's hearths and stoves. Now they seemed lighter here by the well, as if some invisible burden had been lifted along with each log's weight from his shoulders. May finally spoke, her voice soft yet clear against the evening air. "Do you often stop by the well?" Liang nodded again, this time smiling slightly. "Whenever I am returning late." She smiled back but kept sorting her herbs without looking up at him. "There are stories in the water here," she said, more to herself than to him. Liang reached into his basket and pulled out a small bundle of dried reeds he had gathered along with wood. "I thought these might help your infusions," he offered, holding them out toward her. May accepted them without speaking, running her fingers over the dry stalks as if she could feel their essence in her touch. She tied them neatly into one corner of her collection and looked back up at Liang. "Thank you." He nodded, turning to lift his baskets but hesitated. Instead, he reached out and picked up a stray root May had misplaced, placing it carefully beside its kin. When he was done, he straightened, meeting her eyes once more. "Do you ever think about the roots?" Liang asked, curious despite himself. She nodded slowly. "Every day. They hold their stories too." Liang turned to go but paused again by the well's edge. He leaned over slightly, looking into its depths as if searching for something lost there among the ripples and reflections. May joined him at the lip of the well, peering in without comment. After a moment, Liang straightened and said quietly, "Tomorrow will be another day." "Another chance," May replied softly, watching him walk away into the gathering darkness. She stayed by the well until her herbs were sorted fully into bags to take back home with her. As she left, passing through the village's sleepy streets, a single star appeared in the sky above, steady and unchanging, as if waiting for its turn to tell its own story.
The well's surface mirrored the quiet stretch of night sky above. In the country market at noon, there's a quiet corner where old Liang sells baskets, his hands worn but steady as he weaves reeds into tight knots.
In the country market at noon, there's a quiet corner where old Liang sells baskets. His hands are worn and steady as he weaves reeds into tight knots, creating sturdy shapes meant to hold vegetables and fish from the local farms. Today, his fingers ache more than usual. The cold of winter still lingers in his joints. Across from him sits Zhang, a traveling musician whose violin case lies open on the ground beside him, strings broken by an earlier mishap. His face is worn like Liang's hands, weathered but full of stories, and he has been here for hours now, watching people pass without stopping to hear him play. Liang notices Zhang and sets aside his work for a moment. He walks over slowly, leaning down slightly as if speaking to someone much younger or smaller. "Need help fixing that?" Liang asks in a low voice. Zhang looks up, surprised by the offer. There's an old twinkle in his eyes as he considers the question and then nods without hesitation. "Wouldn't mind." Back at Liang's stall, they sit side by side, but instead of starting with tools or instruments right away, both men are silent for a while. The market hums around them, the clatter of dishes from food stalls, the laughter of children chasing each other, and yet here it feels quiet. Liang reaches into his basket and pulls out a small piece of metal, a flat strip that catches light as he holds it up to show Zhang. "Thought you might need this," he says simply. Zhang smiles faintly. "Sure did." He takes the part from Liang's hand, examining its edges under his thumb before placing it next to the broken strings on the violin case. "Thanks." For a time after that, they work in tandem without words, Liang threading the new bit into place while Zhang does what he needs to do with the old and frayed strings beside him. It's careful labor that requires precision and patience. When the instrument is ready once more, Zhang closes his case gently but doesn't immediately stand up or leave. He looks at Liang, who finishes tying off a loose end on one of the baskets, then glances back across to where people are still moving about in their daily routine, unaware perhaps of the small drama unfolding here. "Should probably get out there," Zhang says finally, though he doesn't move. Liang hums softly, considering it. "Maybe another day or two?" Zhang nods understandingly and begins to pack up his belongings carefully into the violin case. Before walking away, however, he pauses again beside Liang's stall, reaching back for a moment without speaking. Then he places something in Liang's palm, a small carved wooden figure that seems almost forgotten among other goods. "Wasn't sure what it was meant to be," Zhang says with a shrug. "But thought you might see something different." Liang holds the tiny figurine up, looking at its rough but unique shape, a simple form that evokes thoughts of someone or somewhere only known in the quiet spaces between people. And then he smiles. Not quite acknowledging, just knowing. In that moment, as Zhang walks back into the market's bustling crowds, Liang returns to his baskets and their unfinished work, holding on to both what is new and old, the figure and its origins, a part of Zhang's violin resting among him now. As if in passing, he looks up again towards where Zhang had disappeared into the noise but doesn't follow. Instead, there is only the sound of reeds being woven back together under his fingers, quiet yet determined, and an echo of strings finding new life inside their case carried off by another traveler down the road.
Today, his fingers ache more than usual. The cold of winter still lingers in his joints. The sun dipped low, casting long shadows over the baskets and the open violin case left behind. Maiko could finally return to her small vegetable garden after late afternoon's rain ceased.
The rain had ceased by late afternoon and Maiko could finally return to her small vegetable garden. She stepped out of the house carrying a worn basket, already half filled with harvested greens and carrots. The air was cool and damp from the passing storm. She drew her cloak tighter around herself as she walked towards the plot. Her neighbor, Katsuo, emerged from his rice paddy just beyond hers, wiping sweat off his brow despite the chill in the air. He was known for being a man of few words, but when he saw Maiko approaching with a basket of greens, he called out to her. "Maiko-san," he said. "I see you've managed to harvest some crops." "Yes, Katsuo-san," she replied quietly, walking over to the fence that separated their properties. "They're small but they'll do." She reached into the basket and pulled out a handful of carrots, offering them to him. He accepted them wordlessly and placed them in his own empty basket by the side of the paddy. Then, he looked towards her garden and saw the rows of green plants, some flourishing, others drooping from neglect. His eyes moved back to Maiko's tired face, and a rare smile touched his lips. "They've been good for you," he said softly. Maiko nodded and gestured towards a few patches in her garden that were clearly overgrown and left untended. She had more vegetables than she could eat or sell but fewer hours to care for them all. "I haven't kept up with this corner much lately," she confessed, shrugging slightly as if explaining an old ailment. Katsuo didn't comment directly on her confession. Instead, he looked around at the fading light and then back towards his paddy. The rows of rice stalks stretched out like a carpet of golden stubble across the muddy earth. "I don't keep up with this well either," he admitted. "There's always something more pressing." Maiko turned to look over Katsuo's land, seeing that it too was not immaculate in its orderliness as she sometimes imagined such plots must be. They both paused for a moment, the weight of their own labors and shortcomings hanging between them. After a while, Maiko broke the silence with a suggestion. "Would you like to help me tidy up over here tomorrow morning? It's only small tasks." Katsuo nodded thoughtfully and looked at his paddy as if seeing it for the first time since he stepped out this day. Then he turned back towards Maiko with another of those rare smiles and said, "And perhaps I can bring some breakfast?" Maiko felt a warmth in her chest and she returned the smile. "That would be kind of you." They stood together at the fence as dusk deepened around them, the stars beginning to appear in the sky like tiny seeds scattered across black cloth. Neither mentioned it again, but the offer was accepted and declined without words exchanged. Maiko packed up a few more vegetables into her basket while Katsuo helped her carry them back home. As they walked side by side, neither spoke much, but there was something settled about their walk. The rain had come, cleared itself away, and left both gardens with work to do the next day. When Maiko reached her door, she turned to Katsuo. "Thank you," she said simply. He bowed slightly in return. "Good night." Maiko watched him disappear into his own home before entering hers. Inside, she set down her basket on the small table by the window and looked outside once more. The lights of their homes flickered softly under the encroaching dark. She let out a long breath and closed the door behind her. Outside, Katsuo returned to his paddy as Maiko retired for the night, each with a quiet task ahead.
The lantern flame swayed once, then steadied again as dusk settled around the rice paddy. The tea house closes for the night. Until tomorrow.